Jack Miller never imagined he would marry outside his species yet. Here he was on a spacecraft bound for the Zetharian homeworld. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his formal attire, a special suit designed to honor Zetharian customs. The Zetharians had appeared in Earth orbit 5 years ago, their massive ships casting shadows over major cities across the globe. Humanity feared the worst, but instead of invasion, they came with an unusual proposal, an alliance through arranged marriages. Their society valued genetic diversity, and human DNA apparently contained something they desperately needed. Jack had been selected from thousands of candidates. The government told him it was an honor to serve as an ambassador for humanity, but he knew the truth. Earth needed this alliance. The Zetharians possessed technology that could solve climate change, end resource scarcity, and defend against other hostile species. Lurking in the dark corners of the galaxy, Lily stood beside him, a government handler assigned to prepare him for his new life. She had coached him for months on Zetharian customs, language, and expectations. She will remain on the Zetharian homeworld for 1 Earth year to ensure a smooth transition. The government said it was standard protocol, but Jack suspected they wanted someone to make sure he went through with the arrangement. The ship hummed softly as it prepared for the final jump to Zetharian space. Lily handed Jack a small device. "This translator will help until you learn their language," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "Remember what we practiced. Their customs are different but not wrong. Just different." Jack nodded, though his stomach twisted into knots. He had seen images of his future wife. Vera was her name translated into something humans could pronounce. She had iridescent blue skin, delicate features that seemed almost feline, and eyes that shifted colors with her mood. The Zetharians were beautiful in an alien way, but the thought of spending his life with one terrified him. "We will arrive in 20 minutes, Lily said, checking her tablet. "Make a good impression." "Jack, humanity is counting on you." The arrival ceremony passed in a blur of strange music, exotic scents, and formal introductions. Jack stood tall as dignified Zetharian officials welcomed him, their voices a melodic series of clicks and purrs that his translator converted to English. Then she appeared. Vera stepped forward, her ceremonial robes flowing like liquid silver around her slender form. Her eyes shifted from deep purple to bright gold when she saw him, a sign of curiosity and perhaps approval. Jack felt his heart race, whether from fear or something else, he wasn't sure. The formal meeting lasted only minutes before Jack was escorted to his new quarters, a spacious apartment with views of the capital city sprawling beneath crystalline domes. The architecture was organic. Buildings seemed to grow, rather than being constructed curved lines and natural formations. Rather than the rigid structures of Earth, he would meet Vera again tomorrow for their first private conversation, before the marriage ceremony in 3 days. Lily reminded him of key phrases and customs before leaving him alone with his thoughts. Jack barely slept that night, dreams of Earth and family mixed with strange visions of his new life. When morning came, he felt disoriented. The alien sun casting unfamiliar shadows through his window, a soft chime announced Vera's arrival. Jack took a deep breath and opened the door. Vera stood alone without attendants. Her casual attire was simpler than the ceremonial robes, but no less elegant. She bowed slightly, then spoke, her translator converting her language. "Thank you for your sacrifice." "Jack Miller," she said, her voice surprisingly warm. "I understand this must be difficult." Jack returned the bow, remembering his training. "I'm honored to be here," he said, though the words felt hollow. They sat in a garden area, plants from both worlds growing together. In careful harmony, Vera explained aspects of Zetharian culture, answering his questions with patience. Jack found himself relaxing slightly in her presence. "You must wonder why you specifically were chosen," Vera said after they had spoken for nearly an hour. The question had indeed haunted Jack for months. Was it random selection or something more? "I was told my genetic profile matched your requirements," Jack said carefully. Vera made a sound that the translator didn't convert, something between a laugh and a sigh. "That is partly true," she said, her eyes shifting to a deep blue. "What they didn't tell you is that our species is dying. Jack, a genetic disorder spreads through our population like fire. We cannot reproduce without it appearing in our offspring." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "But what does that have to do with humans?" "With me?" Vera leaned forward. our scientists discovered something remarkable in human DNA. She explained specifically in certain humans, our disease is caused by a damaged sequence in our genetic code. But some humans carry a natural immunity, a perfect counterbalance. You, Jack Miller, have the strongest genetic resistance our scientists have ever seen. The meeting with the High Council was set for the following day. Jack spent the night pacing their living space while Vera worked frantically on data tablets compiling research and results. We need to show them exactly what your genetics have accomplished. Vera set her eyes a determined orange color. They need to understand what would be lost. Jack nodded absently, his mind racing. He had never expected to become a pawn in interstellar politics. The High Council chamber was an impressive space, a circular room with walls that seemed to shimmer with their own inner light. The 9 council members sat on elevated platforms, their formal attire marking their status and specialty. Lily presented Earth's position first, her voice professional, though Jack could tell she didn't agree with her instructions. The new administration wants additional technological concessions, particularly weapon systems and transportation advances, she explained. They feel the current arrangement favors the Zetharians too heavily. The head counselor, a female named Kira, whose scales had faded with age, turned her amber gaze to Jack. What are your thoughts on this matter? Jack Miller. You stand at the center of this alliance. Jack stepped forward, feeling the weight of 2 worlds on his shoulders. I came here believing I was serving my planet, he began. But what I've learned here changed everything. I'm not just an ambassador. I'm a medical necessity. He gestured to Vera, who activated a holographic display showing genetic sequences and medical data. Vera has compiled the results of the treatments derived from my immunity. He continued. Already 500 children have been born free of the genetic disorder. That number will grow exponentially as treatment becomes more widely available. The council members studied the data, their eyes shifting through colors of interest and hope. But if Earth withdraws me from this program, Jack continued, the treatments will eventually fail. The immunity must be refreshed with new genetic material regularly, or it weakens. Kira leaned forward. Can more humans with your immunity be found? Jack looked to Vera, who shook her head sadly. We have tested thousands, she said. Jack's combination of genetic factors is extremely rare. Perhaps 1 in 10 million humans might carry it. And even then, not as strongly as he does. The council conferred among themselves in rapid Zetharian, too complex for Jack's still developing language skills. Finally, Kira addressed Lily. Tell your government that we cannot provide weapons technology. It goes against our most sacred principles. But we can offer advances in medical science, energy production, and environmental restoration technologies that far exceed what we have shared. So far, Lily nodded, making notes. Jack knew she would present the offer but had no power to accept or reject it. There is another matter. Kira continued, her gaze shifting to Jack. You have become vital to our species' survival. Jack Miller, would you consider becoming a permanent citizen of Zatharia, with all rights and protections that entails? Jack felt a surge of emotion. Relief, hope, belonging. He glanced at Vera, whose eyes shimmered with anxious hope. I would be honored, he said with no hesitation. Lily looked shocked. Jack, she began. You can't just I can, he interrupted. This is my choice, I want to stay here. Kira made a gesture of acceptance. Her eyes shifted to a formal gold. This will be included in our response to Earth. We will request your permanent diplomatic reassignment as a cultural attaché. If they refuse, we will need to consider alternative arrangements. The following weeks were tense as Earth and Zatharia negotiated. Jack continued his treatments, providing genetic material for the scientists, while Vera worked to improve the process, making it more efficient. Every day, more Zatharian children were born healthy, their future secured by his presence. Lily was recalled to Earth temporarily to consult with the new administration. Before leaving, she met with Jack one last time. They may not let you stay, she warned. They see you as Earth property. Now not a person with choices. Jack felt anger rise within him. I never agreed to be a permanent medical specimen. He said I agreed to an arranged marriage, which has become much more than I expected. Lily studied him for a moment. You really care for her, don't you? For all of them. Jack nodded. They've become my people, while Lily was gone. Jack and Vera continued their work in the labs one evening. As they returned home, Vera suddenly stopped, her eyes widening to a bright, startled gold Jack. She whispered, placing her hand on her abdomen. I think I'm pregnant. Jack stared at her in shock. Are you sure? How is that possible? I thought we needed the lab treatments. She said our scientists believed direct conception might be possible, but the odds were very low. We never expected. Jack felt dizzy with emotion. A child. His and Vera's. A bridge between two species. The news spread quickly through the scientific community. A natural conception between human and Zetharian was unprecedented. The medical implications were enormous. Jack stared at her, trying to process this information. So I'm here to what cure your species in a way, Vera said, her eyes now. A soft green color that Jack hadn't seen before. Children of our union will carry your immunity. Our scientists will use their genetic material to develop treatments for our people. You alone could save billions of lives. The weight of this revelation settled on Jack's shoulders. It wasn't just politics or resources. He was literally the key to saving an entire species. Why didn't they tell me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Vera looked away for a moment. Would you have come if you knew the pressure, the responsibility? Jack considered this. Would he have volunteered knowing what was at stake? Or would fear have held him back? Probably not, he admitted. They sat in silence for several minutes before Jack spoke again. Tell me about your world, Vera. About your people. If I'm going to help save them, I should know who they are. Relief washed over Vera's features, her eyes shifting to a warm amber. She began to speak of Zetharian history, art, and dreams. The barriers between them didn't disappear. But something changed in that moment. Over the next 2 days, Jack learned more about the Zetharians, their struggle against extinction, their hopes for the future. He saw the dying children in medical facilities, the desperation of a species fighting for survival. And he saw Vera not as an alien, but as a person facing the end of everything she loved. The marriage ceremony was elaborate, but Jack barely noticed the rituals. His focus remained on Vera, on the connection forming between them. Despite everything, he found himself caring for her, not from obligation, but from understanding. 6 months later, Jack stood in a laboratory watching as scientists examined cells from his body. The treatment is working. The lead scientist reported, her eyes bright yellow with excitement. The first children born with the modified genes show no signs of the disorder. Vera squeezed Jack's hand, her skin cool against his. We have hope because of you, she whispered. Jack felt a strange pride swell within him. On Earth he had been ordinary, nobody special. Here he was the salvation of a species. His genetic quirk, a random chance of human evolution, was rewriting the future of an entire civilization. The truth was more complex than either government had revealed. Humans weren't just diplomatic partners or trading allies. They were biologically compatible saviors. The Zetharians needed humanity in the most fundamental way possible. As time passed, Jack began to feel less like a prisoner of circumstance and more like a pioneer. He learned the Zetharian language, practiced their traditions, and even began to enjoy the strange foods they cultivated. His translator gathered dust as he mastered the clicks and trills of their speech. Vera proved to be more than just his assigned mate. She was brilliant, a scientist herself specializing in xenobiology. She helped Jack understand the complex relationship between human and Zetharian DNA, explaining how his immunity worked on a molecular level. One evening, as they walked through the bioluminescent gardens that surrounded their home, Jack realized something had changed within him. He no longer thought of Earth as home. This place with its crystal spires and triple moons felt more natural now. Do you ever regret coming here? Vera asked, her eyes shifting to a curious violet. Jack considered the question honestly. I did at first, he admitted. But now I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Vera made a trilling sound of happiness, her eyes flashing a bright, joyful yellow. I feared you would always see this as a prison. Jack reached for her hand, their fingers intertwining despite the difference in shape and texture. I think I needed to understand why I was here. He said to know that I was making a difference. Their peaceful existence was interrupted a week later when Lily arrived at their dwelling unannounced. Her face tense. With worry we have a problem, she said. Earth is reconsidering the alliance. Jack's stomach dropped. Why, what's happened? Politics, new administration. Different priorities. Lily said dismissively. They want to renegotiate terms, demand more technology in exchange for continuing the genetic program. Vera stiffened beside him, her eyes fading to a dull gray, the color of distress. Our people are just beginning to see hope, she said. Without your genetic material, the treatments will fail. We need to talk to the Zatharian High Council, Jack said immediately. I'm not going anywhere. Lily looked at him with surprise. You don't understand, Jack. They could order you home. I am home, Jack said firmly. This is where I belong now. When Lily returned from Earth, her expression was grim. The news she brought confirmed Jack's worst fears. They want you back immediately, she said. They've reclassified you as a vital biological resource. Jack felt a chill run through him. Did you tell them about Vera, about the baby? Lily nodded. They see it as even more reason to bring you back for study. Vera placed a protective hand over her still flat abdomen, her eyes a fierce protective red. They will not take our child, she said with unusual intensity. Jack took her hand. We need a plan, he said, turning to Lily. What exactly did they say? They claim the marriage agreement grants them ongoing rights to the genetic benefits, Lily explained. They want you back on Earth where they can directly control the research and its applications. Essentially, they want to study you and any offspring. Jack frowned. What does the Zatharian Council say? They're invoking ancient protection laws, claiming that as the spouse of a Zatharian citizen and the parent of a Zatharian child, you fall under their jurisdiction. But Earth is threatening sanctions, cutting off all contact with Zathariaso. In the center of an interstellar custody battle, Jack said bitterly. Lily sighed. It's complicated, further complicating. Matters and Earth Corporation has filed a patent claim on the genetic treatment process. They argue it's derived from human DNA and therefore Earth property. Vera made a sound of disgust. They would patent life itself, she said, her eyes flashing with anger. Jack paced the room thinking. Can I renounce my Earth citizenship? Not easily, Lily said. And even if you did, they might still claim rights to your genetic material under the original agreement. Jack stopped suddenly. What if we share everything? He asked. What if we give the treatment formula to Earth freely? Vera looked at him with surprise. You would do that. The genetic disorder affecting Zatharians doesn't exist in humans, Jack reasoned. But the immunity factor in my DNA might have other applications for human diseases. Earth gets potentially valuable medical research, Zatharia gets to continue the treatments, and everyone benefits. Lily considered this. It might work, especially if the Zatharians throw in some additional technology Earth actually needs rather than just wants. It's a completely different approach from the current negotiating position. Vera was already at a data terminal, her fingers flying over the interface. There are several human genetic disorders that share characteristics with our condition, she said excitedly. Our research might indeed benefit humans as well. Jack smiled, watching her work. The Zatharians valued knowledge and discovery above all else. Sharing rather than hoarding information was fundamental to their worldview. They worked through the night, Jack, Vera, and Lily, preparing a comprehensive proposal. By morning, they had outlined a cooperative research initiative that would benefit both species, while allowing Jack to remain on Zatharia with his growing family. The High Council convened an emergency session to hear their proposal. Kira listened intently, her ancient eyes shifting through colors of consideration. This could work, she said finally. But will your government agree? Lily straightened. I believe they will if presented properly. It's actually more valuable than what they're demanding now, and it removes the ethical concerns about forcing Jack to return against his will. Jack stepped forward. I want to address the council. Directly, he said. Kira gestured for him to proceed. Since coming to Zatharia, I've learned that our species are more connected than either of us realized, he began. My DNA helps your children. Your knowledge could help our sick. What began as a political arrangement has become something much more personal for me. He looked at Vera, who stood proudly beside him. I found a home here, a purpose, and now a family. I'm not just a biological resource. I'm a person making a choice to stay. The council members' eyes shifted to colors of respect and agreement. Kira made the formal gesture of decision. We accept this proposal. She said, we will share our research freely with Earth in exchange for Jack's permanent residence here and ongoing cooperative medical programs. When the Earth government received the proposal, they were initially resistant. But the potential medical applications were too valuable to ignore, especially with several pharmaceutical companies expressing immediate interest in the research. 3 tense weeks later, confirmation arrived. Earth had agreed to the compromise. Jack would remain on Zatharia, but would participate in regular virtual conferences with Earth scientists. The genetic treatments would be shared with modifications for human applications. And most importantly, Jack and Vera's child would be recognized as a citizen of both worlds. The first of what they hoped would be many. That night, Jack and Vera stood on the balcony of their home watching the triple moons rise over the crystalline city. His hand rested gently on her abdomen where their child grew. I never expected any of this when I left Earth, Jack said quietly. I thought I was sacrificing my life for duty. Vera made a sound of contentment. Her eyes the deep blue, of love and peace. Instead, you found a new one. 5 years passed quickly. Jack watched with pride as his daughter Grace grew into a remarkable child. With blue-tinged skin, slightly pointed ears, and eyes that shifted colors like her mother's, she was clearly neither fully human nor fully Zatharian, but something wonderfully new. Her mind was quick, her laughter infectious, and her existence proof that their species were compatible in ways no one had imagined possible. Grace's birth had accelerated the genetic treatment program. Her natural immunity was even stronger than Jack's, providing scientists with new insights and approaches. Over 5,000 Zatharian children had now been born free of the genetic disorder, with thousands more benefiting from ongoing treatments. On Earth, the adapted research had led to breakthroughs in treating several previously incurable human genetic conditions. The collaboration had expanded beyond medicine to environmental science, space exploration, and cultural exchange. Jack had become something of a celebrity on both worlds. The human who had married an alien and helped save her species, Lily, had returned to Earth years ago, but they still spoke regularly. She had become an ambassador herself, specializing in Zatharian relations. We have a visitor coming tomorrow, Vera said, as they prepared dinner in their home, now larger to accommodate their growing family. Jack looked up curiously. Who, Lily? She said. She has news she wants to share in person. Jack smiled. It had been almost a year since Lily's last visit. Grace would be excited to see her honorary aunt. When Lily arrived the next day, she embraced Jack warmly, then knelt to hug Grace, who chattered excitedly, showing off her latest science project. Later, as Grace played in the garden, Lily shared. Her news: Earth is establishing a permanent colony on the 4th planet in this system. She explained the Zatharian Council has approved it. It's going to be a joint settlement, both species living and working together. Jack was surprised the governments actually agreed to that. Lily nodded. Things have changed, Jack. Your story changed things. When people saw what was possible between our species, when they saw Grace, Jack felt a surge of pride, though he knew it wasn't just about him and Vera. Countless scientists, diplomats, and ordinary people had worked to build this new relationship. They want you to help establish the colony, Lily continued. Your experience living in both worlds makes you uniquely qualified. Jack looked at Vera, whose eyes had shifted to a thoughtful purple. What do you think? I think it could be good, Vera said carefully. Our research is well established here now. Others can continue it, and Grace should know both parts of her heritage. Jack watched his daughter playing happily, combining Zatharian building crystals with Earth-style designs, creating something that belonged to neither world, yet honored both. The colony, called New Harmony, welcomed its first 1,000 residents 6 months later. 500 humans and 500 Zetharians, began the ambitious project of building a shared world. The architecture combined elements from both cultures, creating spaces that were comfortable for both species. Jack, Vera, and Grace moved into their new home on a hill overlooking the main settlement. Jack would serve as cultural liaison, helping residents from both worlds navigate the inevitable misunderstandings and conflicts. Vera would continue her research in a new state-of-the-art laboratory, focusing on applications that benefited both species as they unpacked. Jack found an old photograph he had brought from Earth showing him just before he left his home planet. He barely recognized himself. The nervous young man in formal attire, eyes filled with uncertainty, bore little resemblance to the confident person he had become. Grace peeked over his shoulder. "Who is that?" she asked. "That's me," Jack said, "before I met your mother. You look sad." She observed her eyes shifting to a concerned blue. "I was scared." Jack admitted, "I didn't know what would happen." Grace considered this thoughtfully. "Were you afraid of Mom because she looks different?" Jack smiled at his daughter's insight. "No, not really. I was afraid of the unknown, of leaving everything I knew." Behind, Grace nodded solemnly, her eyes shifting to a wise amber beyond her years. "Sometimes the best things are unknown until we find them," she said, repeating a Zetharian proverb. Vera often shared. Jack hugged his daughter, marveling at the wisdom in her young mind. She was the future, neither fully human nor fully Zetharian, but something new and wonderful. A bridge between worlds that evening as the unfamiliar stars appeared in the sky of their new home. Jack stood with Vera watching Grace help a newly arrived human family set up their dwelling. The human children were shy at first, but soon were laughing with Grace as she showed them how to use simple Zetharian technology. "I never imagined this would be my life," Jack said quietly. "When I agreed to marry you, I thought I was giving up everything." Vera leaned against him, her eyes the deep, contented blue that Jack had come to love. "Instead, you gained a whole new world," she said, "and helped build a bridge between two species." Jack nodded, watching as more families, both human and Zetharian, gathered in the central plaza, sharing food, music, and stories. All because two governments had made an unusual arrangement, an arranged marriage between species. Sometimes, Jack reflected, the most unexpected journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. He had been forced to marry an alien girl, but what he discovered was that underneath their differences, their hopes, dreams, and capacity for love were remarkably similar, and that simple truth had changed everything.